Hello everybody, welcome to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already, especially if you are watching these videos from my main channel, and drop a like on this video to help it do better in the YouTube algorithm. And of course, check out Rusty recaps on audio platforms if you'd prefer to get your videos in more of a podcast style later on in the day. So, Game 6 of Clippers Mavericks. This series fucking refuses to die, doesn't it? This was, once again, a fantastic game, as this series has produced multiple fantastic games, and it's produced multiple fantastic performances. This time, though, not from Luka Doncic. It was Kawhi Leonard. Now, I will say Kawhi's play in this series has gone under the radar just due to the fact that Luka's has been even better, which is saying a lot because previous to, I think he finished with just under 50 points. Previous to what Kawhi did in this game, he was already averaging 30 points on like 60% shooting for the series, and he had 45 points in this game on 72% shooting, and he only shot 4 free throws, shot 9 threes. There weren't a lot of drives in this game. It was a lot of huge threes, a lot of mid-range shots, typical Kawhi shit, and it was just... It was kind of a marvel to watch because he kept pulling up and it kept going in every time. And especially late in the fourth quarter, it was just like, if Kawhi shoots, it goes in. That's just how it is. That's the rules. Just an absolutely amazing and clutch performance here by Kawhi. And on the other hand, on the Maverick side of things, the guy who's been averaging 35 plus on like 70% true shooting in this series thus far, Luka Doncic, while he finishes with 29, 8, and 11, a lot of those numbers came late when the game was kind of out of reach, and I can just say that for a majority of this game, he wasn't as great. Now, I will say, the Clippers did their best job defending Luka by far. It seemed like finally players were taking this matchup personally, which is what I talked about in my video calling the Clippers a joke. It was Markieff Morris for a lot of this game, but also Kawhi was getting the matchup late. There were a couple of moments with Paul George, and he was getting double-teamed over and over, forcing other Mavericks players to make decisions with the ball. And this is the issue with heliocentric offenses that I have harped on multiple times now, specifically with Luka and the Mavericks. If a defense figures out how to interrupt the flow of your player that the foundation of your heliocentric offense is based around, if a defense figures out how to interrupt that, which the Clippers did today, you force the players who aren't great at making decisions to make decisions, and today many Mavericks players had to make decisions, and they were not making the best ones, or they made okay decisions, but they resulted in shots that just simply did not go in. Luka, had decent assists. He had 11 assists in this game, and a lot of those was just him passing out of double teams. But for a lot of this game, he wasn't able to find just a direct pass for an easy bucket, so he threw it out. That player passed to somebody. That player drove past to somebody else. It really seemed like the Mavericks were bad at getting the ball back to Luka after the initial double and pass out had happened, so that's not the best because it ended up being 4 players trying to figure out how to do offense when it's not being spoon-fed to them by Luka. So that was really the biggest thing in this game on the defensive end of the ball for the Clippers. The biggest reason why the Mavericks put up just 97 points. Their offense was just simply not the best. Now, I will say, this game started off, once again, looking like Luka was primed to take over the world. It seems like Luka is just he goes through the throat. He goes for the throat immediately. Like immediately. Like he started one game with like 4 straight threes, I believe. I think that was last game, maybe. I don't know. But he goes for the throat, but as the game goes on, he starts to slow down a little bit, which is understandable, especially if you have, you're playing like the best player in the history of basketball for like 5 minutes. But it is worth noting that like holy fuck Luka thing tends to slow down as the game progresses, and that is a bit of a problem. It's understandable with how much of a load Luka has to carry, but at the same time, it is a problem. Now, I've already mentioned in this video, and I've mentioned multiple times already, that the Mavericks need to get some people out there that can make decisions outside of Luka. Like I've suggested in the past, like trading for Kyle Lowry or Drew Holiday, really just getting another big-time playmaker out there would make a world of difference for this Mavericks team. But for this game, obviously I don't have those players and forced to make decisions. I will say this was a great game from Tim Hardaway Jr., or at least a pretty damn good one. He started kind of chucking a little bit later, but not too much. And, you know, as not great as Kristaps has been relative to the money that he makes, this game, while he did only score 7 points and only grab 5 rebounds, I'll say defensively, he was pretty good in this one. He has 3 steals. One of those in particular was a really major one later in the fourth quarter. He got a good block. He was just at the right place at the right time defensively, which in this series, his defense has been incredibly inconsistent and leaning more towards the side of negative. So for him to at least contribute positively defensively, I think is something worth note. This game also, we saw a lot of Boban, and there were moments where it worked and moments where it didn't. He ended up shooting 38% because while Boban is big and he can just kind of take a layup on every possession, his touch is not the greatest in the world. He had one possession where he missed like 3 layups at the basket, and the Clippers players were fighting to get the rebound over his incredibly tall ass. But he didn't. It ended up going out of bounds, and it was Mavericks ball after that. But he missed like 3-4 layups with not that much pressure on him. So that was interesting. Eventually, we've seen this Boban experiment already. What was ironic is as soon as Boban sat, that's when the Clippers put Zubac in the game. But it really feels to me like both of these teams have what they're comfortable with. With the Clippers, it is the small ball, and with the Mavericks, it's the small ball they were already running. So what they're comfortable with, they're not going to break from it in the important moments at the very least. They might try throwing things out here or there, but late game, we're going to be seeing the same lineups that we've been seeing since the Mavericks, or since the Clippers decided to go small in like game 3 or 4. I can't remember which one it is. But worth mentioning, once again, home court advantage doesn't fucking matter. This is the first time in NBA history that a series has had 6 games in it where neither team has won on their home court. Now, based on that trend, this means that the Mavericks will be winning Game 7 on the Clippers' home court. But, you know, I was in locker room earlier talking to my guy Nicholas, and I said, like, hey, it could just be a coincidence, 5 games. At a certain point, like, it's going to go back to normal. But once again, didn't go back to fucking normal today. Ultimately, this game was won by Kawhi being ridiculous, Reggie Jackson also playing very well. And this is the second game in a row that he has been phenomenal for the Clippers. And also their defensive scheme on Luka that finally interrupted what he was trying to do. Really just bringing doubles and making Mavericks players make decisions, and bringing doubles effectively in a way that doesn't just leave some clear option wide open. That's a problem with double teaming, is like you have to make sure your other 3 defenders are in a position where they can at least get a hand up on shots and not give anything easy up. And they did that this time around. And it just seemed like players took the Luka matchup a lot more personally, playing it more physically. I saw Kawhi going after Luka early or late in this game. There was one instance where there was a switch on to Reggie Jackson. Luka went to post up, and Kawhi was like, fuck all that. I'm going to bring help off of Dorian Finney. And then he did that, and then Reggie Jackson brought help on Dorian Finney and prevented the switch in the post up and all that, and prevented the 3. Luka did hit a 3 right after that, but regardless, there was an aggressive attempt to interrupt the flow of what Luka was trying to do. When that switch happened, Kawhi wasn't just going to sit by and let it happen like we've seen happen in this series over and over again. So, great effort by the Clippers. And I will say on Kawhi's part, one of the reasons why I was like, hey, Luka might be better than Kawhi is even though, yeah, Kawhi has averaged 30, it's been a quiet 30. And I understand people who kind of get frustrated with people saying things like that because 30 is 30. He's had games that weren't so quiet, if you know what I mean. But, like, it just felt like when the moment mattered, Kawhi wasn't necessarily stepping up in the way that you would like. This game absolutely fucking did that, and it reminded me of Toronto Kawhi. The thing is, after the 2019 run, I viewed Kawhi as the best player in the league. Now, that was a mistake in hindsight, but that is what I thought. And really, since then, I don't think I've fully seen Kawhi at the heights that he had in that playoff run. Today, we saw those heights, and that was refreshing to see because Kawhi Leonard is, or has been, at least in the past few years, been one of my favorite players in the league. Ever since he's been on the Clippers, I've been more down on him. But previous to that, when he was on the Spurs, especially when he was on the Raptors, I was a huge Kawhi guy. So seeing him play great, even though, of course, I am pulling for the Dallas Mavericks, was still great to see. So great job by Kawhi. Great job by the Clippers defending Luka. And as for how Game 7 goes, if they're able to bring out that defensive scheme and that intensity again in Game 7, the Mavericks should have things to be concerned about. As for how they could counter something like that, I'd probably say more Jalen Brunson minutes. He played about 15 minutes in this game. He is somebody that can create his own shot, and specifically somebody who can create shots for others. After you double Luka, you're leaving like Tim Hardaway and Dorian Finney-Smith to make decisions with the ball, and not the best in the world at those things, even though they're great in other areas. So I'd say just more Jalen Brunson minutes could possibly counter that in some regard. Even then, if you're the Clippers, you're more than happy to let Jalen Brunson do shit than let Luka do shit. So I'm curious what we're going to see in Game 7, and I'm very excited about it because this has been a great series regardless. Of course, I'm still pulling for the Mavericks because, A, Luka's my third or fourth favorite player in the NBA. He's basically tied with Giannis right now. 1 and 2 is Zach LaVine and Steph Curry. So I'm pulling for the Mavericks for that reason. And then 2, I'll be real, when the Clippers are losing, it's easy-ass views. So, I mean, from a business perspective, the Clippers being down is good for me. But that's not going to change that they played a damn good game. And regardless, I'm happy for a good-ass series in the first round because almost every other series in the playoffs, I've been rambling for long now, almost every other series in this playoffs ended up being disappointing as time went on. It started off hot and then really cooled down. This has almost had the reverse effect where the Mavericks smacked the Clippers in the first 2 games, and since then, the series has had nothing but bangers. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on this game. I don't think I have too much else to say. So subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop a like. But yeah, that is it. Goodbye.